the program that I offer is really involved. So I've been healing EBV now for, I don't know, maybe like 8 years, and I was placing it as transformation. So I was working with really high business leaders to, you know, look at healing not just their physical body, but their whole life. And so, you know, even people like in business will kind of come through, because I worked in a program called the Evolve CEO, and maybe they had stress problems in their business, but people don't have business problems. They have personal problems that reflect in their business. So again, everything to do with healing is part and parcel of looking at somebody's, I want to say, programs that they're running, or all of their restrictions, or all of these things. So over time, what I found is, no matter what somebody wanted to create for themselves, I always had to heal and reduce EBV in the body and do a process. Because EBV, being an opportunist virus, sits there and it waits for somebody to be under stress. So if somebody's not managing their life properly, that's a bit, I should say, harsh. I don't mean, it's not even by their own fault that they're not managing their life properly, because you've kind of asked about, you know, all of the emotional work and those kind of things, and it being interlinked, and sure it is. But it's like people run programs. They have their own specific stress responses and triggers. And this is the point to life. This is, we're here to, you know, heal and resolve and release all of these things. And whether you want to talk about it in the way of neurological programming, whether you want to talk about it as like karmic patterns, whether you want to talk about it as, you know, lots of deep soul healing, or, you know, changing behaviors, there's lots to it. But again, it kind of all boils down to the same thing. So with the program that I've created, each person, even though I've kind of created this, I want to say, formula or template or a way to get EBV, like your body to address EBV, because, you know, it affects real physical things. It's a physical virus, but it's so interlinked with people's life, with their trauma, with their stress. So it's almost like, in reducing and healing EBV, you would have to find your set kind of triggers. And so I see people that have done endless healing, and, you know, that's wonderful. People can kind of work on all of these things, but honestly, when you start getting into healing, I see it all the time, and I did this for myself. It's almost like even that spiritual side of things, it's really fun to start with. It's really exciting, and then it becomes endless. And then it becomes, I'm almost like stuck even in the healing, and it just gets really hard for people to navigate. Because what I've found is, it's almost like people can have thousands, hi Libby, people can have thousands of deep survival layers, even more. Like, honestly, it's endless, right? And so when you're committed to healing, you're kind of just peeling these layers back, right? And when you present to a healer, they will almost look at that top level and say, right, you're in stress and I'll take you out. But they're kind of working up here. But EBV, if it's been there for like, I don't know, I see people, it's decades. It's like 20, 30 years in the making. So it's kind of like it's way down here. So it's almost like you've got to work with the key pieces of why it's like EBV's here and the stress compiles on top. So it's so hard for people to release layer, because you've got to find the big key pieces. It's almost like in healing, there'll be key pieces for somebody, right? And if you find the key pieces, it unlocks a whole lot of things. And with EBV, it's almost like it's its own physical entity as such, but it holds energetic association to this other side of stress. And this is kind of what I'm always talking about. I'm talking about having to heal on all of these layers and levels. And then when the body gets kind of compromised to that degree, you know, when neurological structures are so in decline and are kind of inflamed and are held at this level, even that progression path to try and elevate one's consciousness, it really gets hard, because it's like you get locked out of soul progression, because your brain structures have to evolve, they have to update, they have to basically heal enough to hold this higher expansion level. So again, you know, I've got a few other questions here that kind of talks to me about what could I do in my life, and I've got this issue. When I talk to somebody, it's like I've got to hear about their life. Because if you kind of heal some key pieces, but you're actually looking at it in a formula to going, I need to work on these key responses or triggers or programmed stress association that have EBV locked in. EBV won't reduce until you kind of also get some of these pieces going at the same time. So if you look at it almost like on a holistic level approach on all layers, there is some support, sure, for the body, and there is kind of things that it's almost like even by your awareness of going, I've got the support going, but I'm actually looking at some of these key pieces. Because when emotional or spiritual things shift, you do have like this physical representation in the body, and it almost creates like a release or a detoxing process.